This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Good morning, Ira. I know it was San Antonio, but I'll take it. At least you got over 500, and I enjoyed the aggressive BAM that continues.
You know, and what we're seeing is it doesn't matter who it's against. Every team that builds a good record in the NBA builds it against someone. You get the easy ones. It gets you over 500. You have a couple of statements along the way. And again, it was just a case of doing what's needed. You were shorthanded, 2 of your 5 starters out without Lowry, without Caleb Martin. You know, I just posted a story at the Sun Sentinel. I'm still waiting for everyone to get together to see what this mix could be, because then you'll have flexibility. When you get all 5 of the preferred starters, only 11 games this season have they been together. So we're almost still waiting to get started a little bit. But you know what? They took care of business. They wanted the 4-0 trip. They wanted to come home with a winning record. They wanted to go in again these winnable games before Christmas against the Bulls and Pacers at home. They've reached their goal. All of a sudden, you're like 3 games out of 4th place, 4 games out of 3rd place. You're resetting yourself. As long as there's not those major glitches like we saw against Memphis and Detroit, you'll be fine. You'll make that steady growth. The East at the top 2 is very good, but there's room for the Heat to fall into place also.
Did they take any crickets home? Because that's really, I think, what was the key to all of this was eating crickets. I mean,
you know, that's just crazy. And I actually checked to make sure that Jimmy wasn't just BSing us. And it said, no, in Mexican culture, insects are ground into the food and they're seen as source of proteins. And you know what? Whatever it took for Jimmy to help lift the Heat to that victory and do it, I have no issue. I always worry when the guys talked about the night before we're going to go out and explore the local cuisine. I'm like, who's not showing up for the game? Enough guys showed up. They made it through it. It was a very limited trip there. There wasn't a lot of touristing done by the team. They're exhausted. That's why they took these next 2 days off. Now they get to reset. 4-game homestand before they go out west. Better positioned, insects or no insects.
Well, I gotta ask Jimmy where he went, because, you know, I gotta go in 2024 to go see Metallica and Greta Van Fleet in Mexico City for a couple of days. You know, you gotta have some crickets while you're there. When in Mexico City, do Mexico City. You know what I'm saying?
When in Mexico City, you'd like the crickets. I get you there. So, and you know what? For as much as Jimmy said it, I'm still not totally sold he actually ate the crickets. But that's another story for another day.
Would you eat crickets?
Yeah, my wife has always been amazed. When we go to places, I will try anything. I will try any body organ. I will try anything the locals have there. Yeah, my sense is people are eating this and not dying, and it's a local delicacy. So who are we to say, well, we eat here in the States? Some other people would look at like, wait a minute, you're eating that? We eat plenty of body parts. I have no issue.
Yeah, no, if you're going to eat Spam, why not eat a cricket?
You're eating anything anyway. That's perfect. And if you grew up like me as a kid on bologna sandwiches, who the hell knows what's going in there?
Exactly.
And hot dogs at the ballpark. Come on, they'll grind up anything and anyone in those things.
Am I looking too much into this? But have the Heat kind of gotten to the point with Depot? It's like, F it, bro. Either you can play or you can't, because when they played him 34 minutes and an injury-prone player like that, I'm like, okay, they're telling him, brother, the training wheels are off. Either you get it done or get the hell out and we move on. But I think this is kind of drawn the line. Depot, you better adapt right now, because they are giving you every opportunity from here on out.
And also, they're taking measure, Big O. I wouldn't say injury prone. I would say injury plagued, because there haven't been a lot of injuries. There's just been some really bad injuries he's had to recover from, and maybe being a little bit overcautious. But you know what? It's what I spoke about. If you're going to have your starting 5 of Bam and Caleb and Jimmy and Tyler and Kyle, all of a sudden everyone else is battling for the scraps there. And they want to get a read. Can Victor Oladipo be our backup wing? Can he be our backup point guard? Do we not need to rely on Gabe Vincent and his 30% three-point shooting right now? Can he play a shooting role instead of maybe Duncan or Max? So we've said from the get-go, Victor Oladipo is sort of the universal donor on the bench. He can do a lot. But you know what? You won't know later if he can play bigger minutes unless you see it right now. I think the Heat's thought with Victor is roll him out there. If it works out, perfect. If it doesn't work out, then we know by the trading deadline we have to go in a different direction. They know what 5-minute Victor Oladipo and 10-minute Victor Oladipo can look like. They're trying to get a read on, like you said, 20, 25, 30-minute Victor Oladipo to see what they have. I agree the training wheels are off. And you know what? And if he breaks down and everything falls apart, hey, you've got to find that out. You have now waited just about 2 full seasons to see what you have in him.
What do you see so far?
I see a player who fits so well in their defensive scheme with his deflections, getting his hands on the ball, 8 steals in the last 2 games, 5 steals in Mexico City against the Spurs. He fits that. Now, this team's defense has come around. The scoring has not. So can he be anything close to the dynamic scorer he was? Because again, with that 5-man lineup I gave you, who's going to score off the bench? We thought it'd be Max Strus. He's been up and down all season. Duncan Robinson disappeared, but he came back 2 of the last 3 games, making 3-pointers. So you have to get a sense on who your reliable guys are, or even for as much as we talk about a big Heat trade, might you need just a smaller deal just to get someone here who on the second unit can flat out get you some buckets? That's what they have to find out.
There's a part of me in this Tyler Herro blaze that he's in right now, shooting absolutely amazing. And hell, didn't he have like a couple steals the other night too? I think I wrote it down. Didn't he have like 2 steals? Yeah, he also had 2 steals. He had 21 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals. And I'm almost at the point now that Tyler also inside himself said, I better turn it up to the point that they're like, yeah, we can't put him on the bench anymore. You know what I mean? Like he is playing like, you know what I mean? He like sent a message like, no, here's where I belong. And let me show you how I belong. It's not just scoring. I'm going to start doing some other things. And if you look at what Tyler's been doing, it's not just scoring. He's actually helping and growing as a more complete player in other areas.
And we've seen that with Kyle Lowry out missing the last 2 games. He's more of a playmaker. He's doing that, getting others involved. It's interesting what they're doing, Big O. You and I have spoken on our Acura Pembroke Pines reports for weeks now about how the bench isn't doing it. Tyler could boost the bench, but he's not going back there. You're not undoing this. There is an ego factor in starting, even though we all know it's who closes in the NBA that matters the most. So what the Heat are doing, if you notice this, you'll see this on Tuesday against the Bulls tomorrow. They're taking him out of the game earlier so they can cycle him in with the reserves. So they're getting the best of all worlds. Instead of telling Tyler, you can't score all this, we have to feed Kyle, we have to feed Bam, we have to feed Jimmy, they take him out, put him in with the second unit when he can be more of a natural scorer. So it's really smart by Spoelstra. He's nominally a starter, but about 4 minutes or so into the game, he's not a starter anymore. Then he's cycled through with the reserves. He's young enough at 22 to play bigger minutes, to be a starter and a reserve anyway. So Eric Spoelstra has sort of found a happy medium. He's getting Tyler with the second unit a lot, but Tyler still can go home, puff his chest and say, I'm an NBA starter. It's one of those little subtle coaching moves by Eric Spoelstra that shows that he gets it. He gets the ego of something wanting to start, but he gets the need of Tyler Herro needing to be with the reserves who just flat out don't score that much.
Ira, what is the thought of any kind of additions? Because, again, from what everybody is talking and writing, it doesn't look like the Heat is going to go over the tax this year for any kind of move. There isn't really a superstar to be had, and I don't think they have the ammo to acquire a superstar anyway. So what kind of move could they be looking for? What names are floating out there?
I'm going to make it easy for you because we know who's coming to FTX Arena on Tuesday, and that is the absolutely cratering Chicago Bulls. I believe anyone and maybe everyone is available there. So DeMar DeRozan is the kind of player you might go into the tax for. Nikola Vucevic is the kind of player you might go into the tax for. Zach LaVine is the kind of player you might go into the tax for. I'm not saying people don't aggregate this, that the Heat are getting all or any of them. What I'm saying is you're getting closer to the part of the season when you can pick at the carcass, when you can find players on teams that are going south, where you might have a chance. Toronto's doing the same thing right now. They're reassessing whether to kick it to the curb, get in the Wembanyama lottery game and go in that direction. So I would keep an eye on teams that aren't meeting their mandate and realized even at their best, the Bulls at best are a play-in team. I'd say the way the Raptors are playing, even at best, they're a play-in team. So do you want to be a play-in team and barely make the playoffs and not get a good lottery pick, or do you kick it to the side? The Bulls are really interesting. The Lakers are looking at the Bulls. A bunch of teams know that, hey, those are NBA guys that in the right situation could work. Last night was a perfect example. Goran Dragic spoke after the game. We're not sacrificing. We're not playing for each other. I'm not saying that Goran Dragic is coming back, but I am saying this, Big O. Goran Dragic on a one-year deal who came back to play in the playoffs, if it's going south in Chicago, probably will again ask for a buyout. He got one last year from the Raptors. He finished the season with the Nets. You know what? Come February, come March, if Goran gets a buyout and Gabe Vincent's not making his three-pointers and the Heat do have that extra roster spot, we know that Goran can work to a degree with this Miami Heat team also. So I would start looking at the teams that are fading from the playoff picture a little bit and then go from there. I also would look at the desperate teams who realize they're missing something the Heat might have. And an example of that is the Atlanta Hawks are not getting the shooting to space the floor. You know what? They might be a buyer for Duncan Robinson. You might be able to make a move in that direction as well. So I think the standings are going to start to tell a story also, as well as maybe what you might want as opposed to what's available.
If I ask you which is the Bull that's the perfect fit right now, the most needed, which one is it?
Well, again, the price tag is too high, but the Heat would love a stretch 5 option. Look, we know what Nikola Vucevic has done against the Heat over the years, whether it's been in Philly, whether it's been in Orlando, to a degree with Chicago. He has been the Heat killer. That's what you want. Second unit. He is a floor spacing big. He can come in, unlike Dwayne Dedmon. He's not the defender maybe Dedmon is, but he's available. Someone like that, he would be very intriguing on this team. I'm not saying he's a starter, although he could start.
No, you can play him with Bam. You can play him with Bam
because he can stretch the floor, but you can cycle through. That would be interesting. So you have a guy like that. Again, I think a guy like Goran for a little offensive boost. I know he's old, and I know Kyle's old, but if you have two old players, you don't have to play either of them a lot of minutes. That would be interesting also. I'm looking at them. The Raptors have a crap ton of talent. I mean, I don't think you're getting Pascal Siakam, but I would kick the tires. And again, these are the kind of names that I believe Nick Harrison and Mickey Harrison would consider going to the tax for because they know they're proven quantities. The Heat's 7 in the East right now. They're looking like they could trend up at least to 4 or 5, get into a reasonable first-round matchup. These are the kind of little subtle moves if you can make. If you're willing to give up some draft equity, maybe a young player that you could pull off. Max Strus went to DePaul, Chicago guy, maybe send it back home, give Chicago another player to look at, throw in some Duncan salary, maybe wait for January 15th, some Dedmon expiring money. The maneuverability will increase for the Heat, so keep an eye on the teams who are going south while the Heat are headed north.
Listen, Ira, I have the solution here. Listen, sometimes we hurt each other as family, friends, and then you got to try to make up. A couple years back, the Miami Heat made a terrible decision by allowing Dwayne Wade to walk out and use that money for white bum. And so now they fixed it. They went and they brought him back. I think the Raptors did bad in letting Lowry go. I think we need to repair that relationship. And I think we need to send Lowry back, and they need to give Siakam to the Heat. This way, they can close out that love affair with Lowry next year. Have a going out party in every city and all that good stuff, and they can have some synergy and close things out the right way. So let's help the Raptors out. And close that relationship out the right way like Miami did with the Bulls. What do you think about that?
Or they could sign him to a one-day contract and he retires like we see in the NFL all the time and have Kyle Lowry night and call it a day. Or with the Heat going to be so hard up against the tax next year with the contracts of Butler and Herro and Adebayo, if the Heat use the stretch payment on Kyle Lowry, they could bring him back at the minimum. They are not giving up quality for him. They brought in Precious Achiuwa at least as someone who can move forward with them in the Lowry trade. Look, Kyle Lowry will do the ceremonial ending with the Toronto Raptors, but he will not on the 32. Yeah, he won't do it on a $32 million salary. Good try there, Big O, but I'm going to give that a big fail.
I don't know. We had to make up with Wade, so I figure they make up with Lowry.
We made up with Wade at the minimum. We didn't make up with Dwayne at $32 million. Yeah, that's the difference.
We can facilitate that for them. We can give them back Lowry. It'll pain us to part ways with Lowry, but we'll do it for them so they can close it out the right way. All right, what do you got going on in the Sun Sentinel so Heat fans can check you out leading into the Bulls tomorrow night?
Well, I wrote that story about that. It looks like the Heat are finally going to be whole for the rare time. So we have all kinds of issues. Who's the backup point guard now? Is it Victor Oladipo? Is it Gabe Vincent when he comes back? Who's the backup wing? Is it Max Strus, who's been starting a lot? Is it Duncan Robinson, who's come on? Who's the backup center? Dwayne Dedmon has really struggled this season. Could they go a little bit more with Orlando Robinson? Or are they really waiting for Omer Yurtseven to come back and saying, you know what? If he comes back by late February, we get a couple of months, maybe that's where we're going. So again, I think we all agree the starting lineup is staying the starting lineup. Tyler Herro deserves to be an NBA starter. And you know what? Caleb Martin at $10 million less and 10 years younger than PJ Tucker has worked out just fine there. So I think the Heat have settled their starting lineup. Now we're going to see in coming weeks, how do they settle the backup, the reserve rotation? Because the one question Eric Spoelstra hates being asked. Coach, now that you're healthy, what are you going to do? And he's like, don't jinx us. I don't want to hear that. That's like asking about the guy in the free throw streak when you ask about Gabe Vincent. So I might not ask tomorrow, but I think that's where their issue is. And then, of course, later today, the injury report comes out. Will they be healthy? Were they really just holding Kyle Lowry out for rest against bad teams in Houston and San Antonio? Or is that knee an issue? We'll know more about that around 5 p.m. today.
All right, follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat and catch his work at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. And you can catch him again on Wednesday with the RedRecover.com Inside the Paint show. Ira, thank you, sir. We'll catch up later in the week.
Well, winning record now. I can afford a better Acura, so we'll see. Thank you, Big O.
You got it. Be good. There you go. Ira Winderman and our Acura Pembroke Pines, Miami Heat, and NBA report.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.